In the world of adult animation, Seth MacFarlane has made a name for himself, and while Family Guy is his most iconic show, a lot of people prefer American Dad. Unlike in Family Guy, where 90% of the relationships are toxic, just look what happens at poor Meg. Shut up, Meg. American Dad's relationships are a little bit nicer, but that doesn't mean they're all good. Far from it. So today, we want to see which relationships are the best and which are the worst. Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is American Dad: Relationships, Healthy to Toxic. Starting off our list is the best of the best. We're of course talking about the healthy. The gold medal of healthy goes to Roger and Rogu, the first paternal relationship on our list. Rogu is formed by Roger while under a lot of stress in the episode Persona Assistant, and Rogu has become a major supporting character ever since. Roger cares for Rogu, and it doesn't seem to be superficial like a lot of Roger's relationships. He acts like a caring father to Rogu and tries his best not to pamper him, while still providing all the necessary love and care.
That's dangerous. How cute!
Rogu seems to love his father just as much, although he does get a bit murder-happy at times, which can definitely be an issue, but it doesn't detract from their loving relationship. Roger never seems abusive, which is why they definitely take the top spot on our list. Earning our silver medal of health are Greg, Terry, and Libby, but we're only talking about Greg and Terry with Libby for now. Libby is the daughter of Greg and Terry after using Francine as a surrogate and dealing with Stan's insanity. We'll get more into Greg and Terry separately, but when it comes to Libby, they are pretty good, not only together, but with her.
I am in love with this baby!
Libby is raised well, even if she's being forced to be a golden child, knowing many languages and such. And when Greg raises her as a single parent, later on, he does pretty well, all things considered. The problem comes from the fact that while they love Libby, they don't seem to care too much about her overall happiness with their arrangement. The bronze medal of health goes to Betty and Hercules. Betty is Stan's mother, and that's a relationship we'll get to later, but in the episode Edible Panties, she meets Hercules. Hercules is a butcher and a widower. Francine goes to him quite often to obtain deli meat. Eventually, she tries to connect Betty and Hercules, and the two of them hit it off.
We are laughing about the lamb.
Initially, Francine and Roger thought that Betty was being a black widow, and they try to save Hercules, although it turns out that this isn't the case. They get married and they seem to be good with each other. After this episode, they don't have many appearances until after Hercules dies. But in the short time, they seem to be good for each other, hence their ranking. Next is Hayley and Jeff. They may not be much to look at, but they have shown to be better than most relationships throughout the series. Initially, they were on again, off again, and honestly, not that great together. But after eloping and become an officially married couple, that all changes. Jeff sees Hayley as his true love and would do anything for her, and Hayley cares for him the same, becoming heavily depressed when Jeff was lost in space.
You separated me from true love.
Sure, they're not perfect, but compared to some of the things we have coming up, they're saints and definitely deserve their spot on our list. Next is Steve and his friends. Steve has a small friend group in high school consisting of his best friends Shot, Toshi, and Barry, all of which have become friends for a while. While the group seems to enjoy each other's company, they do have a few problems. Toshi seems to pretty much hate the other members of the group. Barry only stays docile while on his medication, and Snot tends to break off from the group for very minute reasons. When one of them gets a girlfriend, they break up the group, which is definitely worth mentioning.
Our friendship is over!
However, they always get back together, and it shows they have a very strong relationship. And Steve stays friends with Snot well into the future, as we can see in one episode. However, they aren't a perfect group. Up next, we have Roger and Stan. Roger and Stan have been friends since before the show started, up to the point that Roger was able to move into the Smith house. This is because Roger saves Stan's life while escaping, showing he can be a good person at times.
How can I ever repay you?
Because of this, Stan feels he needs to protect Roger, and the two get along. Yeah, they fight a lot because of warring ideals, but they always make up, even to the point of Roger employing Stan to take over his personas. Roger and Stan have a very strong friendship, and it's one of the best friendships in the series, because although they fight, they always stay friends, even when Roger tries to kill Stan. Regarding romance, next on our list are Steve and Akiko. Akiko is Toshi's sister and a recurring character. Ever since her second appearance, she's been a love interest for Steve. However, due to her consistently shifting age, it isn't really tackled until Spelling Bee My Baby. Akiko and Steve are both practically forced to beat each other because their parents both want them to win the spelling bee. However, this leads to them bonding over their parents' shared antagonism, and they seem to hit it off well, even sacrificing their chances at winning so they could be happy, although they're never shown to be together afterward. They're a cute couple, and they seem to be good for each other for the most part.
I heard what you said to your mom. You deserve to win.
They only land here because we don't see enough of them to rank them anywhere else. Rounding out the healthy part of our list is another teen relationship. It's Steve and Debbie Hyman. Debbie is one of Steve's earliest romances, first appearing in Season 2. Steve and Debbie bond over their shared hatred for gym class and seem to be quite well together, although Stan doesn't like her.
I forbid you to see that girl!
They consistently get together and then break up over and over, showing they're not the greatest couple, mostly because Steve is immature and doesn't know the best way to keep her around. Although the on-again, off-again nature of their relationship shows they care for each other, Debbie uses her connections to save Steve and his gang from being killed, which shows that she definitely likes him enough to save his life. Now we move down to the relationships that could use some work. This is the gray area. Starting off the gray area is Stan and Bullock, being a work-based relationship. Bullock is a deputy director of the CIA and Stan's boss, being a major part of his work life. Bullock acts more like a school teacher than a boss, giving out punishments like timeouts. However, he treats Stan as his star pupil for the most part, save for when Duper comes around. Bullock deals with Stan's craziness all the time and, more often than not, helps him with the crazy stuff that goes down.
Find a girl willing to overlook my age?
The reason they fall in the gray is because of Bullock's to Stan, where Bullock starts sleeping with Hayley. Stan and Bullock have an intense fistfight, and no one can convince us that they don't fall into the gray because of that. Next, we have Francine and her children. Francine is the mother of Steve and Hayley, and she seems to be a good mother on the offset. She tries her best to help Steve and Hayley reach their full potential, while also being happy with their choices. Throughout the series, she's shown to be generally proud of her children and happy when they do good. However, Francine is a trophy wife first and foremost and can be abusive, but mostly emotionally, and even that is a rare occurrence. The only time off the top of our heads we can think of is the aforementioned Spelling Bee My Baby, where she is abusive to Steve, trying to make sure he wins the bee.
From now on, your whole life is words.
But even this is a rare occurrence, and we don't think it's common enough to cause her to fall further. The next relationship is between Steve and Hayley. Steve and Hayley are siblings, and their dynamic can be explained by exactly that. They bicker and fight more often than not, but that doesn't change their general love for each other. There are plenty of times when they seem to absolutely hate each other, and other moments when they're very close friends, such as when Steve is making fake IDs.
You're selling fake IDs to teenagers.
They don't hate each other, but there are plenty of moments where they're shown to care and understand each other. Their abusive moments are there, but still few and far between, meaning they land here on the list. Next is a friendship for the ages, Roger and Steve. While Roger came to live at the Smith house because of his friendship with Stan, the main relationship we see with Roger is his relationship with Steve. He's one of Steve's closest friends, and Steve is definitely Roger's closest friend. Most of Roger's escapades focus on his relationship with Steve in some way. Just look at the Wheels and the Legman episodes. They show that Roger and Steve's relationship is a rocky friendship that is more than a normal friendship. In many episodes, their friendship gets them out of tough situations. Although more often than not, Roger's usual personality stops him from ranking any higher on the list.
Fire him or this partnership is over.
He isn't wholly abusive to Steve, but it becomes obvious at times that Roger is the driving force behind their low ranking. However, Roger cares for Steve, as he even swaps faces with him to get with the girl by laying on the charm. Roger and Steve are a very good friendship with intense low points, but they aren't bad enough to land any further down. Rounding out the gray area is the relationship between Betty and Stan. Betty is Stan's recurring mother, although her most major appearance is Edible Panties, which is where this relationship is center stage. Stan cares for his mother, some might say too much, as he's willing to do just about anything for her, including disappearing anyone who tries to date her. Stan is a little bit too interested in his mother's love life, to the point that many people have been kidnapped and sent to an island because Stan is scared of them hurting her.
Anyway, gotta go kidnap a Greek guy.
Now, by the end of the episode, he has decided to stop this project, but he still cares for his mother immensely. They aren't abusive, but Stan is sort of obsessed, which is a problem in itself, so it's no wonder why it lands here. We can now move down to the worst relationships. These are the toxic. Starting off the toxic section is the main romantic relationship of the show, Stan and Francine. Stan and Francine have been together for some time, even being roommates earlier in their relationship. Stan gets with Francine because of his mercy by killing an animal he accidentally ran over. They're shown to get along for the most part, except for the wide array of episodes where that's not the case. Stan treats Francine as a trophy wife, and his conservative values cause him to hate her anytime she tries to get a job, leading to him destroying most jobs she gets. He'll put her and the kids in suspended animation to pretend to go on a loving vacation so he can watch sports. When Francine loses her memory, she realizes she doesn't like his personality, and in the episode Shallow Vows, it's revealed they only stay together for shallow reasons.
I don't even know why we're married.
It's more than obvious that they're not good for each other, and yet they stay together regardless. The next toxic relationship is Greg and Terry. Greg and Terry are the local reporters for Channel 3 and a very openly gay couple that are neighbors to the Smiths. Greg and Terry have been together since prior to the series and seem good for each other at first. However, as episodes go on, it becomes obvious that they are surprisingly toxic, as they constantly bicker and argue and are very rarely shown to love each other.
Are you kidding me?
Such as when they argue and nearly break up due to differing political beliefs and Lincoln Lover, or when Greg has to be essentially abused by Terry's father because Terry refused to come out to him. In the episode Anchor Fran, it's revealed that Terry left Greg and abandoned his job and daughter to go follow a band on tour. The only reason they don't fall lower is that they don't actively abuse each other, but it comes mighty close. Next is the family and Klaus. If you want to talk about abuse, this is the go-to example. Klaus is the family goldfish who has the brain of an Olympic athlete, and the family treats him like crap. They verbally abuse him at almost every turn, never listen to his usually correct advice, and even physically toss him around at times. The thing is, Klaus just wants to be accepted by the family, even if they don't want to give him that.
I shall not be denied!
It's even revealed that hating on Klaus is one of the only things that keep the family together. The fact that the abuse is one-sided is the only reason this relationship doesn't fall any lower. Next, we have Roger and Klaus. Much like the rest of the family, he tends to abuse Klaus to some degree, ignoring him at the best times and essentially torturing him at the worst. However, there are a few cases where he's better than the family because he tries to at least be civil with Klaus, such as becoming his authoritative mouthpiece for familial advice. However, the real reason they rank this low is because of the season 12 episode, Clogger. They get involved romantically, and a whole new basket of trouble opens.
Klaus and I are in love.
Klaus and Roger start having relations in secret, and Klaus absolutely loves it. When they're caught, Klaus breaks it off because he prefers when they were doing it in secret. Roger goes insane, forcing Klaus to adopt him so they can work with another taboo, sending him to prison and then stabbing someone. Only after a month in solitary does Roger get over it. The fact that Roger is trying to force Klaus to harm people for the relationship and Klaus wanting the secrecy part, it's very obviously toxic. The bronze medal of toxicity is the relationship between Stan and his children. Stan, unlike Francine, doesn't seem to care about his children in the slightest, except when they're like him. Stan will do just about anything to exert his will over his children, and it becomes abusive. He'll do everything from strike his children to mind control them. There's an episode where he shaves off all of Hayley's hair because she dyed it.
Stay out of my life!
He hates that Steve isn't a jock like he was and only ever seems to care about him when he has any sort of romantic situation going on. Stan abuses his kids in almost every way, except for consistent physical abuse. However, there are plenty of times where he cares about his kids. It's just not enough to pull him from this ranking. The silver medal of toxicity goes to Jack and Stan. Jack is Stan's father, and a bad one. He abandoned his family while Stan was young, leaving Stan with little more than tales and assumptions. Jack was in and out of prison for 20 to 40 years, and only decided to appear to his son when the actor that was playing Stan's father passed. Almost immediately after he appeared, it became clear that Jack was a liar who instantly set up his son to take the fall for his crimes.
You haven't changed a bit.
He physically assaults Stan in Jack's back and doesn't really become that much of a good guy until he becomes Krampus. This is 100% the worst paternal relationship in the series because Jack shows little to no love for his son, and Stan at least tries his best. The gold medal of toxicity goes to Roger and Emperor Zing. This is a relationship that only appears in one episode, but it is so vital to the character of Zing that it needs to be talked about. Before Roger was sent to Earth, he was in a relationship with Emperor Zing, subsequently cheating on the Emperor in his own bed.
Can we please be grown-ups about this?
This is the only real moment we see of this relationship, but it's said that Zing thought it was true love, so we know that this relationship was very important to him. Roger pretty much chewed him up and spat him out, leading to Zing enslaving people and trying to eradicate anyone who believed in true love, showing that it's completely changed him as a person. So yeah, while it's a short explanation, it's obvious why it lands here on the list because Roger completely decimated this man. But don't leave just yet, we have some center medals to hand out. Earning our Darwin medal is Hayley and Jeff, because they absolutely love each other. But the relationship started off very dumb, especially in the episode where Hayley moves into Jeff's van. Grabbing our Lust medal is Roger and Klaus, whose entire relationship is based on lovemaking and not much else. It's simple, really. The Wrath medal goes to Steve and Hayley, who are often dueling with words or physically fighting each other because of their sibling rivalry. Taking our Sloth medal are Steve and Debbie, because their relationship started with them not wanting to participate in gym class. Maybe a weird one, but our Greed medal goes to Stan and Betty. This is because Stan pretty much wants to keep Betty all to himself, which is weird and greedy. And finally, our Pride medal goes to Stan and Francine, because they only stay together because of shallow reasons. Alright, that's it. Let us know in the comment section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge more of our videos, but most importantly, stay wicked.